Welcome back to the Travsessed podcast. We're your hosts, Kim and Aaron. We are healthcare travelers and the creators of Travsessed. Travsessed provides on-the-clock, off-the-clock resources for healthcare travelers. On the clock being our podcast and our amazing course, Travelers School. Off the clock being Travsessed Adventures, which we are still here in Bali with a group. I think we have been batch recording, so I am not sure, but we are recording this in Bali, waiting for our group, our 2023 Travsessed Adventure group. So
every episode has said that. They're like, we've literally been sitting in our hotel room for the past 2 days recording all of these episodes so that we can stay consistent with them, because we know we're going to be completely in it when the group gets here.
Actually, it is. These are all going to be within the time frame, because it's not until we start recording our next batch at the middle of the trip that it'll be. So anyway, Travsessed Adventures, off the clock resources. We got a good episode. I'm really excited to share this with you all. It's a new direction of this podcast. We're going to go for it, and we're going to tell you all about it right here, right now.
Flight crew, please prepare for departure.
Go.
Okay.
I need a Coke Zero.
Oh, a Coke Zero?
Yeah. Would you like one?
Kind of.
Okay.
Thanks. Having a little happy hour moment here? Okay.
Happy hour at the Bali Hotel.
Here we go.
Cheers.
So, cheers. Cheers, fuckfish.
Oh, nice.
That's wonderful.
Refreshing.
That's my lunch.
Okay.
Okay, so here we are. We are going to be doing a new, I want to call it a segment, but I guess it's not a segment, because we really want to tell our full story, and we'll tell bits and pieces of it and stuff over time. But you know, we've been together for 16 years. We, you know, we've been traveling. We've started businesses. We're entrepreneurs. We have done so many things, and we get so many questions about different areas, about different things, and we thought it would be really cool to take it back and really start from the beginning, but give each moment time.
Yeah, totally. And I think like we did this on our YouTube channel when we
oh my god,
when we were in Washington, and when we came back from Bali and Thailand and the Philippines, and like we were just talking about in the previous episode, actually.
I'm doing YouTube,
and like then we were like, why don't we go back and like become travelers and just do weekly videos on YouTube, and like we can talk about our own lives and blah blah blah. And so we started this segment. Again, we were just trying different things, and it was our story, and
it took off.
They actually did really really well. They were just so painful.
I can't. It's so cringe to think about.
I can't watch it. We literally were sitting on a blanket, and like we'd find good scenery. Go back and watch it. I think there's some still on there. But we would just talk about different things. I mean, these things were getting thousands and thousands of views.
Well, it started as like our love story, right? Because I think that's the foundation of everything. Our love story, how we met, you know, the struggles we had, like, you know, our relationship is this beautiful like evolution over 16 years. And it was tough in the beginning, and you know, so we were like, let's really dig into like the nitty gritty of like this beginning part of our relationship, and we called it like our love story. And it was just so crazy to think about, but like, because we would sit and we were like hiking, and I would like jump on your back and like do a piggyback ride. It was so fucking awkward to watch. But then we would just sit in front of the camera for like 20 minutes. And
You're right. We would act like we were hiking to tell the story.
Oh my god, you guys, welcome. Like, I'm doing a piggyback ride. Like, it was so cringe and so awkward.
But so cute and innocent.
We were like really trying to like make it you know, something to watch.
But I think you mentioned it, right? So then it was like this thing of that was so podcast. It was such a podcast. Like we were, I don't want to say ahead of our time. Were we? I mean, 2017. I guess there was
podcasts were a thing then.
We should have started it. That was when we started watching Lewis and School of Greatness and like all that stuff. Impact Theory.
Yeah.
All of that. Damn. Like, yeah.
That
so
was the time.
That was the time. It should have just got a mic and done a podcast, which would have been great, right? But it did plant the seed. And I think one of the things that Kim and I have always talked about, and other people have told us, is you guys are great storytellers. We love listening to stories. You guys are hilarious when you tell them. The additions and exaggerations and craziness is like adds to the story. But you guys are very vulnerable. You're very real. You'll tell it like it is. You won't leave anything out. And we learn a lot from you guys' story. And so that's something that has registered with us. And we can really almost narrate our entire story from start to finish.
Yeah, there's like a lot of pivotal moments, a lot of things that have shaped a lot of decisions we've made and things that have come up. It's just we like sat down when we were in New York, or no, yeah, we were like at Brooklyn Brewery, and you had made all of these notes about like different things that have happened specifically with our love story, if you will.
It's the beginning, up until when we met to when we started traveling.
Yeah, our relationship. And so we were like going through this at the brewery, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh my God, like all of these things like triggering me, all these stories, all these moments that led to this, and like especially in the beginning of our relationship. And so it was like, whoa, there's so much here. And so we're like, well, we wanted to take each episode as a way to start telling the full story from, in our relationship. That's where we're going to begin, because that's where it all started. So like the nitty gritty, the beginning moments, how it all began, like the struggles, the issues. Because I think that's the other thing too, is like not trying to paint this like pretty picture of like, oh my God, like we've just like, we're best friends and fell in love. Like there's so many nuances and things that we had to work on and challenges. And so we really wanted to use these episodes to share the in-depths of all of the things in the beginning and kind of work chronologically moving forward throughout the story, but being able to tell stories and go down side streets and, whatever's coming up for that particular era. Yeah, era. Just letting that...
Maybe that's not a word you say anymore.
It sounds weird.
It sounds weird when you say it.
Era. It's like Iran.
Maybe that's why it feels...
Iran. I'm gonna start.
It feels like it's here in Bali.
Iran.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, so that's what the vision was for this next kind of era with the podcast.
Well, and I think it's funny because, again, we talked about it in the last episode. We were talking about seeds being planted and trying different things and attempting. And there's been something that is just stewed with this podcast. And like we always come back to it. And we're always like, it should be like Unleashed with Kim and Aaron. We should do like Unleashed After Dark, Kim and Aaron After Dark. We should do like a relationship. So we wanted to do travel, sex, and relationship podcast.
Yeah.
And we were like, yeah, but like, not once do I ever want to be taken as somebody that gives relationship advice. Like, hell the fuck no. Like, I just want to tell our story, which is fun, entertaining. Maybe you learn something, maybe you don't. But we also hear all the time that, like, dude, you guys live the most unconventional, crazy-ass life I've ever seen. Like, can't keep up with you. We have no idea what you guys are doing. We have no idea where you guys are. Like, I turned 41 this year. Kim's 37. We do want a family. What's that look like? That's going to start developing its own story as well as we go through that kind of process. And we hope by that time we'll be caught up with this podcast. So then it becomes basically telling the story as we're going through it of like the different, maybe we're trying to get pregnant and there's going to be maybe some struggles. We don't know. Maybe it's first time and bing, bang, boom, we have a kid. Who knows? But
maybe
like
we don't at all.
Transitioning our lives from this nomadic, crazy lifestyle that is only going to get more nomadic to then possibly having a family and living in Denver or wherever we're going to live, who knows? But we want to take this chronologically almost as a story. And the last thing I'll say is, what was really weird is we had been talking about this for so long. And right before we left for Bali, Kim and I were at a cafe and we were going through the itinerary and seeing like what we needed to fill and holes and what we needed to do to wrap up Bali. And I told her, like, I had this crazy dream and it woke me up and I literally had to do research to prove the dream wrong because it felt so real. And what it was I had a dream that Kim and I wrote a book about our lives, but it was about building the backpack. And I remember thinking, how stupid was that? Like, why did we waste all of this time telling the story of our lives on why we built a backpack? Like, that is the dumbest book I've ever heard of. Why did we call it Travsessed backpack book? Like, and so I'm on Amazon and I'm on Audible looking to make sure that we didn't write a Travsessed book because the dream felt so real. But it got me thinking, like, I remember in the dream saying, like, wow, this started off so good. Like, this book was so good up until the point of the backpack. Like, that makes no sense. And so it got me thinking, and Kim was like, what does that mean for you? And I said, I think, in my opinion, we should just tell the story almost like we were writing a book with our podcast and make it fun and audible and visual, like, try to make it as visual as possible via this platform.
Yeah. That is where, because we, like you said, we've been talking about this for a while, but that day at the cafe, again, it was like one of those moments of clarity. You're telling me about this crazy dream, but then, okay, well, what does that mean? What came up from that? And we were both like, dude, like that is what we want to be doing. That is what we enjoy. That is what our audience enjoys. Like when we go back and look at all the stats from like our podcast, like, because we have like thousands of people listening every single month, right? And it's like the episodes that have the most downloads and listens are always things that are specifically about our own story.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it's not because, oh my gosh, like we're so cool, listen to our story. It's because I love listening to other people's stories. That is the thing I listen to the most, because we see each other in like we see ourselves in other people's stories. And I think they're entertaining and they're fun, but you kind of will take something away from it or whatever it is. But those are the things that I like to listen to. Like I want to hear someone's story about how they built something or their relationship or whatever it is. So that is what we love to do. We are storytellers. That is why we started this podcast, is because we were teaching about the logistics of healthcare traveling, but in our course and on live streams, but we really wanted a platform to tell our own story and to tell the ins and outs of all the other things that were going on. And that's where it began. And so it kind of just clicked of, let's tell our full story from the beginning and let's see where it goes.
Totally.
Because this isn't, obviously there's no end, right? There's no like
right.
The end. I mean,
I hope.
God, like, so it's like kind of let it be like this evolving, breathing, living thing.
Yeah.
But let's take it back from the beginning.
We're going to take it back from the beginning, and hopefully it grows into becoming like our own reality show on audio.
Yeah.
And like as we're going through it, because that is basically what we're doing, but we've missed so much. And I want it to be a chronological thing to where it's almost like a Netflix series, like to where you're like, we leave you hanging. You can't wait for the next episode because like I want you to continue that story, or I want to hear what happens next, or I want to hear where you guys go. And not to say that like our story is even that interesting. I really don't care if you think it is or not. Like I'm going to share this story because I do think it is. And when Kim and I are passionate about something, we can really turn something into a really cool like way of telling the story. And it's a story that I want to tell.
Yeah. And I want to say too that we're still going to do Tuesdays
totally.
That are geared towards just answering the healthcare traveling questions. So Tuesdays will stay the same. We'll always be answering specific questions. And then we're going to continue to give, updates about things that are going on in our life, right? So,
Correct, yeah.
Whatever is going on. So we might start the episode with just like the first 5 or 10 minutes, kind of doing an update if something's important to share. And if something really big is going on, or there's like a specific thing that we really want to talk about, then we'll do like a bonus episode where we'll share specifically about that. But the story will be Thursdays, like Thursday story time with Kim and Aaron. And starting next week, we are going to take it back.
Episode 1
from the beginning. And it's going to be fun. I mean, I'm really, like, I think that is where you and I thrive, is when we always said, like, oh, we want this, like, podcast to be kind of more of, like, a happy hour. And again, going back to what we've talked about, you try stuff. What hits, what lands, what do you like, what do you want to do? You pivot. We've pivoted with this podcast several times.
Oh, my God. I was going to say, this podcast has been, like, the palette for,
and thank you for, like, being on this journey with us, for the people who've been listening from the beginning. But like we've tried things, like we've interviewed people, we've done so many things, and like we're always coming back to like, what do we actually want to do? What feels good? And like for us, it's sitting down with a cocktail, telling stories, laughing, being ourselves, and just kind of getting into it. Like we don't really like interviewing other people. So then why are we trying to push that? Like, because we feel like that's what you should do with a podcast. It's not something that we really enjoy doing, to be honest.
No.
Especially over Zoom and like it's different. It's just, it's not.
I would do in
tough.
person.
Yeah.
Like at our house in Denver, if we want to like get
and
into a story.
Maybe we'll evolve into that. But
totally.
We were like, no, what we like to do is fucking tell stories with a cocktail and have a good time. And that is what we've always wanted this podcast to feel like, is a fun happy hour that you can listen to and laugh at, feel entertained, maybe take something away. Maybe not. And like you said, this is not about giving advice. We are not here to give advice about relationships or what you should do, what you shouldn't do. It's just telling the perspective of the things that we've learned throughout our own journey and our own struggles and challenges within our relationship. And our goal is to be very vulnerable and very real and very honest and not sugarcoat things, but keep it fun, but also kind of tell the truth of things.
Totally. And I think like, when it comes down to, I can say within like my immediate circle, like when you look at Kim and I, like we're the people that will just try anything to like figure something out or be better or learn something or not or whatever. Like we just make attempts. Like we'll you know what I'm saying? Like we're open to try whatever it is to make our relationship better, to make us better, to make our lives better, to make our business better, to make the people around us better. Like we always are trying new things. And I think that's really interesting because we'll be able to share all the things that we've done with the adversities or with the things that like have come up that most people maybe haven't experienced. And like we've tried all these things. So then if you're experiencing it, you might be like, oh shit, I've been thinking about trying that. I want to hear what they had to say about it. And I think the fact that we're so open with all that, it could be really interesting.
I think so.
And that's all I got.
Let's leave it there. I'm excited. We are going to, kick this off next week. And again, please leave us a review or like, what do you think about this? Like, let us know in the review. Like, just feedback, people. Feedback. Are you there? And share this out with a friend. And follow us along on Kim and Aaron Instagram. And honestly, another thing that I really wanted to do, and maybe this could also be like a bonus episode, because, you know, again, we already do 2 podcasts a week, and we're going to be doing more if we have another topic that we want to talk about that isn't having to do with the story. But I really, in the beginning, we used to do like Q&A, and we would ask questions like, hey, do you guys have any questions on Instagram? And then we would answer those questions on the podcast. And honestly, those were like some of my favorite episodes that we did.
Yeah, I want some random questions. Like, yeah.
Just fun questions. And so I think I want to like do a segment on that. Like maybe once a month or something, like do Q&A about, it can be about anything. And like,
well, especially
putting that over on Instagram.
Especially if we're like really going through our story, I think it'll open up some questions. Yeah. That people will have, which I think is good.
So maybe doing like one bonus episode a month or something that's like,
I think that's a great idea.
Just Q&A, because
I love that.
That like we would get drinks and then we just answer those questions, and like it was always so much fun.
It's one of my favorite episodes.
Okay. So we're going to do that too. Mm-hmm. All the things. Okay. So thank you guys for being on this crazy journey with us, and it's going to be a fun, wild ride, and we will see you next week with the first episode. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. Maybe? Is it going to be? Okay, we'll talk about this off air.
Next week.
Okay. We'll see you guys
Interesting.
next week.
Alrighty.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.